I wanted to start with the migrant crisis in Europe. Has Hungary avoided the problems that other countries like Germany and Italy have run into? They've been hit with wave after wave of immigrants, pretty much disrupting their societies.
Well, actually, we made it very clear from the beginning that we are not ready to receive any illegal migrants on the territory of our own country. And we made it very clear that it is only the Hungarians who can make a decision whom we allow to come to the territory of our country and whom we do not allow to come. And it is only us Hungarians to make a decision with whom we would like to live together and with whom not. And that's why we have been protecting our border from the very first moment. We have built fence, a very long one. We are protecting 550 kilometers of external border of both European Union and Schengen area. And we made it very clear that there's only one way to come to Hungary, which is the legal way, through the official border crossing points with the appropriate documentation during opening hours, period. And some other European countries, unfortunately, got stuck into hypocrisy and political correctness. And now the consequences are very clear. If you look back for the last 3 years of European history, you will see that 29 major terrorist attacks have been committed, killing more than 330 persons, causing injuries to an additional 1,300. And this is a clear outcome of the migration crisis, because imagine there were around 1.5 million people entering the territory of the European Union without any kind of control, without any kind of check. So this is a clear outcome. We made it very clear from the very beginning that illegal migration is a security issue. It's a huge security threat posed on the European Union. That's why we think that the protection of the external border of the European Union is the #1 issue.
I'm guessing that the Hungarian government has a completely different view on that. Can you just expand on how Hungary views migration?
Well, you know, we have a serious debate with some of our Western friends who put it forward like that migration is by definition good. Migration by definition is the best thing that could happen to humanity. No, we don't agree with that. Migration poses a huge security risk, and instead of encouraging people to leave their homes and come to Europe, we should help them to be able to stay at home under safe and secure circumstances. So there's a false context which has been built, and this false context says migration is a fundamental human right. No, migration is not a fundamental human right. It's not a fundamental human right to pick a country where you would like to live in and then get there by violating series of borders. It's not a fundamental human right to pick United States where I want to live. It's not a fundamental human right to pick Germany where I want to live. But it is a fundamental human right, though, to have a safe and secure life at home. So that's why I think instead of encouraging people to get on the move, and instead of encouraging people to take the life hazard to go some other places than where they live, we should make it possible that they stay either at home under safe and secure circumstances, or if they have to leave their homes because of security issues, then they could stay as close to their homes as it is just possible. Because that makes it possible that if the conflicts are over in their homes, they can return. We have to speak honestly. All those migrants who came to Europe, they will never return back to homes regardless of how the situation evolves there.
What's your advice to give to Americans seeking to control their own borders?
Well, you know, I think it would be too much if I myself, as a foreign minister of a small Central European country, would give advice to the United States in any form. But what I can tell you is that we made a very clear decision that we protect our border in a way that we have full control. And we understood that if you have a land border, multiple hundreds of kilometers long, not as long as yours with Mexico, but long enough from Central European perspective, if you don't build a safe, or let's say strong and effective infrastructure, you are not able to control that fully. So we built an infrastructure, a fence. We have the military there, we have the police there, and we are very, very strict on holding everybody out who want to come illegally.
How much pressure is Hungary facing from the EU over these migrant quotas?
A very serious pressure. Not only Hungary, but the 4 Central European countries. We are very united in this regard. Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. we made it very clear that we don't accept any kind of quotas, because we will never give up our own right to make the decision on our own whom we allow to come to Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic or Poland. Only us. It's only us who have the right to make that sovereign decision. And you know what the other big problem here is? That the quota system is kind of translated in the mindset of all those people who want to come to Europe as an invitation. Because they understand that, wow, I go to the European Union, I will be distributed. And that basically helps the business model of the smugglers to be successful. Because until these people think that they will be, or they would be, redistributed or relocated among European countries, you know, they pay for the smugglers to bring them to Europe. But as soon as we say, no, the only way to come to Europe is the legal way, and we regain the ability to control the external border, and we establish hotspots outside of the European Union where the decision is made whether you are eligible for asylum status, I'm pretty sure that the influx will decrease very significantly. The problem is that the European leaders only do speak about the necessity of protection of external borders. They only speak about the possibility to establish hotspots outside of the territory of EU, but nothing really happens in this regard. We are the only ones, the Central Europeans, who have been representing exactly the same kind of position since 2015, when the first signals or the first influx of the migration wave have happened.
Would Hungary consider an exit from the EU if relations continue to deteriorate?
No, obviously not. Our place is in the European Union. Our interest is European Union to be strong. But the debate is about how to get there. Because there's a serious debate within the European Union about the future of the European Union, which is no wonder, because we are faced with historic type of challenges. So we don't consider it as bad news that we have debate within the European Union, because when should we have a debate about the future if not now, when the historic challenges are ahead of us? So and we even think that all those who are on the other side in this debate, their goal is to make European Union strong. Now the question is which way to choose. And our way is a more sovereignist way, because we propose that we need to make the member states strong, based on which we will have a strong European Union. Others, the federalists say, or the representatives of the federal approach say, that we need a kind of a United States of Europe, where the member states are weakened, and then based on these weakened member states, a stronger integration can be built. We think it's a dead-end street. We think it's absolutely not possible. We think that we need strong member states, and that creates a debate now. But of course, our interest is to make European Union strong, and we of course will remain members of the European Union.
Can you comment on Brexit then? If you're saying that, then how do you guys continue to support the decision of the UK people?
Well, we regretted a lot that decision, but we respected it. We never judged, never commented, unlike the European commissioners, for example, because we think that it is only the British people who have a right to express their opinion about the future of the United Kingdom. Though we regretted that because, with the British leaving, the debates about the future of the EU will be much more unbalanced. Because UK was kind of a leading voice when it comes to rationality, when it comes to more important role for national parliaments, when it comes to a sovereignist approach. So now the debate will be more unbalanced. Number one. Number two, we regretted their decision because that will cause another economic challenge for the European Union. UK represents 14% of the economic achievement or performance of the European Union, 14%, 1/7. So we will lose that. And we are really, that's why we are really pushing for a deep and comprehensive free trade agreement between the European Union and the United Kingdom, because if it is not the case, and the WTO rules apply when it comes to the trade or economic and investment type of cooperation between UK and the EU, then it will cause additional difficulties to us, because European Union unfortunately proved to be very slow, like a snail, when it comes to free trade agreements. So the last free trade agreement, which was signed by European Union and then fully implemented, dates back to 2011 with the Republic of Korea. So 7 years. 7 years we have not concluded talks about free trade agreement in a way then that agreement would have been fully implemented. And if we are not able to do so with the British either, then it can cause tremendous difficulties for us.
I want to get your reaction to the populist movement that's building momentum in Italy.
Well, we understand very well that during the last national parliamentary elections in all EU member states, be it Hungary, be it Italy, be it the Austrian election, the main issue of the election was the migration. And the main division line between parties was how they approached the migration issue. And in Austria, in Hungary, and in Italy, anti-migration parties have won the elections. And I think that Minister of Interior, Mr. Salvini, is a very serious person. And his decision not to allow ships operated by so-called NGOs full of illegal migrants, so not to allow such kind of ships to enter any Italian harbor is a real game changer. Because that decision of Minister Salvini has proven that yes, it is possible to protect the maritime border. I find it really tragical or frustrating that so far the European Union has taken it as a definition or as a fact that the maritime border on the Mediterranean Sea cannot be protected. Yes, it can be. I mean, look at the Australians. They have longer maritime border than the whole Mediterranean Sea, and they are able to protect it. So I think it's a game changer from the perspective of European migration policy, what has been going on in Italy after the latest elections.
The campaign against Soros' influence has led to Open Society Foundation and Central European University saying that they're going to leave Budapest. Do you think the influence of Soros will now weaken in Hungary, or do you think he will regroup and use countries like Germany to put pressure on your government?
Well, we have a serious and open debate with him. We have totally different visions about the future of Europe. Thus, we have totally different visions about the future of Hungary as well. We don't like his concept of changing the composition of the European population. We don't like his concept, which kind of would like to get over the nation-state concept or phenomenon. We don't like the European approach, which would like to get into a post-national, post-Christian era. No, we don't like that. We think that a strong European Union can only be built on strong member states. So we need strong nation states in order to have a strong Europe. So we have an open debate with George Soros. And George Soros made it very clear, that his interest is to fire the Hungarian government. But then why should we be silent? And why shouldn't we argue in favor of our own position? And yes, George Soros pays a number of NGOs in Hungary, which openly became political actors, which openly took part in the election campaign, which openly supported the opposition. But then the outcome was clear. There was a record turnout, 70%, and 49.6% of the votes went to our party on our own. And we have gained another constitutional majority for the third consecutive time. When it comes to the university, to be honest, we are really fed up with the European media and European politicians lying about the situation. Because no one would like to shut down any university in Hungary. The thing is that he must comply with the national regulations, and we cannot make an exception. Why should we make an exception with anyone? There's a clear national regulation which says that you can only issue a diploma of another country if you have a school or education activity in that given country. So like McDaniel College from Maryland has a school in Hungary, has a school in the United States, so yes, of course, they can issue 2 diplomas in Hungary, one Hungarian, one US. But so far, CEU didn't have any kind of school here. So why should we allow them to issue a diploma of a country where they don't have an education program? It's a matter of legal system. Instead of complying with the national legal system, they created scandal. They lied all over, as if there was any kind of attempt to close their university. No, they have a European university, they have a Hungarian university as well, which has all registration, all licenses, all permissions, no problem. But they can only issue Hungarian diploma because the school is in Hungary.
You mentioned Christian persecution and whatnot, and I know that you are coming back, I think, to meet
Sure.
with the State Department next month. Walk me through sort of the religious freedom, the priority that you guys are placing on that in your country, as well as some of the actions by your government to help Christians being persecuted.
You know, we are a Christian country. And we have to emphasize that, because currently under mainstream liberal media, if you say so, you must be very brave. So that's why very proudly I want to say again that we are a Christian country. And that's why we have a special responsibility to protect our Christian brothers and sisters all around the world. Because my question is that if we don't protect them, who will protect them? If we don't speak in favor of them, who will speak in favor of them? And I'm pretty much frustrated with the approach in Europe. You know, whenever we come together, foreign ministers, and we negotiate about the situation in the Middle East, and I raise the issue of protecting Christian communities, the others always want to speak about protecting religious minorities. But you know, my thought is about the Christian communities, and if it is on my thought, I'll say that. Mm-hmm. So, and this shows very well that the hypocrisy is still there, unfortunately. So, for us, protecting Christian communities is of utmost importance. We have even established a separate department in our Ministry of Human Capacities, which has only one duty, one responsibility to deal with the destiny of the persecuted Christian communities all over the world. We send them money. Bishops from leading Christian communities from the Middle East come very often to see our Prime Minister. We give them financial assistance to be able to get stronger where they have been living. We build schools. We take part in covering medical costs of their hospitals. We rebuild their torn down houses. We give them scholarships. So we try to strengthen them where they are. You know, they usually ask us for not encouraging members of the Christian communities to leave their homes. They want, or they ask us to help them to stay where they had been living for centuries, basically, or even more, and to be stronger there. So that's why we rather help them to get stronger in their places where they have been originally living.
You mentioned how your party has won Democratic election after Democratic election, yet globalists and liberals love to attack the Orban government for being anti-democratic, autocratic. What's your response to that?
You know, it's the voice of the frustrated persons and organizations who always want to fire our government, and then after all elections they have to understand that, well, it's still the Hungarian people who make the decision and not the international media. This is the same level of frustration which was shown to President Trump. You know, after President Trump was elected here in the United States, there was a big hysteria in the European Union. But our position was very clear. Everybody has to understand that it is the American people to vote for the American president, and not the liberal media, not CNN, and not the NGOs. It's the same in Hungary. It's not the NGOs, not the mainstream media, not the European political elite, not the European Commission to make a decision who can govern Hungary. It's only the Hungarian people. And you know, we governed 8 years, from 2010 to 2018, 8 years. So there's no secret. Hungarians know everything about us. Hungarians know our track record, they know our plans. They know the track record of the opposition, they know their plans. They went to the balloting stations, you know, and we won an overwhelming majority. And that should be respected. So, you know, the approach, which always try to question the decision of the Hungarian people, is very anti-democratic. Because not respecting a very clear decision of a society, that's anti-democratic. You know, and we are fed up with the approach as well, which try to portray the NGOs as representatives of civic society. That's not true. We are representatives of the civic society, because there were no NGOs running for public support on the elections. It's us, the politicians, members of parliament and members of governments, who run on elections, make our plans transparent, and ask for the public support. And then people go to the balloting stations and they vote on politicians. So it's not the NGOs to represent the society, that's a lie. It's the politicians who represent the civic society.
I want to get your thoughts on Western media and their treatment of Orban.
Very unfair, very unbalanced. You know, I served 6 years as a spokesman, 4 years in opposition and 2 years in government. And I have the experience that facts do not really bother any of those who write these articles about Hungary. You know, I can go through point by point and show how they lie about my country and how they lie about the Hungarian Prime Minister. You know, characterizing Prime Minister Orban as non-democratic is just unacceptable. He is the only political leader in Europe who ran all democratic elections since the transition. From 1990 onwards, he ran all 8 elections in Hungary as a leader of his political family, all 8. He won 4 times, and then he lost 4 times as well. Hope we will have a better track record in the future. But now it's 4-4. But after all losses, he stayed in politics. He stayed as a leader of his political family. He stayed as accountable. He stayed there, you know, instead of leaving for a seat in a supervisory board of a big Russian energy company, for example, like it is the case in some European politicians. You know, you cannot name any other European politician with such a track record. And after then, characterizing him as non-democratic is just, you know, unacceptable.
With your new government, do you intend to change the constitution? And if so, what changes do you anticipate?
Well, we have a plan to make some changes in the constitution. There's a commission which has the task to make an overview. Because we have implemented our constitution, you know, 7 years ago, and things have been changing so quickly in the world that it's obvious that you need to address these new kinds of challenges. And yes, after such turbulent times, it might be necessary to adjust your constitution as well. So now there's a small commission, task force, which has to explore or examine or investigate what kind of changes we need to make, and then they will propose the changes.
How does Hungary view President Trump's foreign policy, his geopolitical moves, in comparison to President Barack Obama?
You know, since we are not American citizens, it would be inappropriate to interfere into your domestic issues. But what we can say is the following. We respect the decision of the American people. We respect the endeavors of your president. We respect his endeavors towards putting America first. And saying America first was a huge deliberation for patriotic forces in Europe, because before President Trump had been elected, saying that like Hungary first, you know, it was immediately stigmatized as nationalist, even fascist, whatever, you know. Now, those who put critics on us because of that are a little bit more careful, you know. So saying Hungary first, your nation first, is such a refreshing feeling, you know. So we like him saying America first, and you know, we rather laugh on the critics in Europe that when they say, oh, it's too bad, because then we pose 2 questions. Who should say America first if not the American president? And what should the American president say, what first if not America? So, you know, for us it's obvious. We definitely understand his patriotic economic policy, because we run an patriotic economic policy as well. We like the change in approach that he does not want to lecture all other countries in the world, you know. And he understood that the American methodology must not, by definition, work in countries with totally different history, different approach, different understanding, you know. And of course, we understand very well his policy on migration. We like his policy on protecting the Judeo-Christian heritage, protecting the Christian minorities all around the world. So all in all, we are happy to work together with this U.S. administration. We are happy that those open attempts to interfere in our domestic issues, which happened during the Democrat administration, are not the case anymore.